You probably have heard people say, don't have expectations. It's one of those pieces of advice that's meant to spare us from having disappointments. You don't have to live without expectations, but you do want to manage them. There is a difference. See, an expectation, or more like one-way expectation, right, oftentimes is what we believe should happen in our experience in a given moment. So, for example, she should have called to clarify. He should have bought groceries on the way home. They should be more helpful with their neighbors. And yet you could argue, but says who? Right? Should is basically the language of some internal hidden rules that you have, which you assume are clear to everyone else, but sometimes you don't even know you personally play by. Now, the more you shouldify, the higher the chance there is to feel upset, frustrated, or disappointed. As you know, things won't always go your way. And when I first learned about this, right, I was very confused. I was thinking, what do you mean I should not have expectations? Shouldn't I expect my package to be delivered on time? Shouldn't I expect service quality that I've paid for? Shouldn't I expect my son to tidy up the paper mess that he made? So over time, I realized that the difference here is whether you clearly communicate your expectations, make them known, such that both parties mutually agree and acknowledge those expectations. So it signals respect for each other, right? And in that is an understanding of the implications or the consequences when those expectations cannot be met or somewhat fall short of. So when there is an alignment between you and the people that you harbor expectations of, expectations would then evolve more specifically into managed expectations, whereby you can, to some extent, track and measure the outcome, and therefore you have some basis to justify later. So this means managing expectations doesn't necessarily insure you against any disappointment, but at the very least, it helps to minimize the probability of it. So in other words, when you have expectations, disappointments are basically inevitable. And I'll go on to say that behind all these expectations, managed or unmanaged, is truly the wisdom of being able to accept everything as it is, whether people, things, or events which happen in our lives. You cannot control how the external things will turn out, but you always have control over your internal weather. And that being how you want to feel, whether you choose to react or respond, and how you can ideally shift your expectations to gratitude for the lessons that life continues to offer.